Well, Valerie Anne, I've got news for you. You didn't cure anything. All you did was trade one eating disorder for another eating disorder. You're limiting foods. You are completely restricting foods. The last thing we tell everybody, like we said earlier, like you were talking about, is that is another form of an eating disorder. What do you want to say to that?
Okay, that's one of the reasons why I collaborated with Nick Norowitz and Dr. Brett Scher to be involved in the case series. I was patient number 3 under the pseudonym.
Wow.
So that's one of the reasons that drove me to do the work and the documentation to be a part of that, was to dispel that lie.
I did not know that. That's so cool.
So I had to I had to stay quiet about it for a long time before it was entered into the Journal of Insulin Resistance. But when Nick, was able to announce it, when it was entered, I knew all along that I was going to reveal myself. I knew all along, because I knew that there were people that were going to be very contrary. They were going to be very hateful and bullish and come at Nick and the anonymous patients and say that there's no way that you can heal by one eating disorder with another. So I knew I was going to reveal myself and say, hey, here I am. You want to talk? Bring it on. Bring it on. Okay. Restriction. This is not restriction. Restriction is being bedridden. Restriction is schizoaffective voices screaming at you that that you can't even go out to eat with your husband. And when you do force yourself to go out to eat with your family or your husband, that's all you can order is plain lettuce and sit there and eat lettuce. Oh yeah, that's a grand time of and that's all you want to do is go home and hide, because you can't relax, you can't smile because you're so depressed. The voices are screaming at you. That's restriction. Restriction is the fractures that I constantly had. That actually restricts your life. That physically restricts you. And the mental illness that I had mentally restricts you. Eating this way is my freedom. There is no restriction in choosing the foods that make you feel your best. That's what I do every day. I don't measure anything. I don't count anything. I don't limit anything. I eat the foods that I crave and that I love, that brought me this healing. And there is no restriction in that freedom. There is none. I enjoy absolutely everything that I eat. I don't sit and wish and long for bread or bagels or carbs. I'm so completely satiated and over the top joyful after a pound and a half of beef at my first meal and another pound and a half at my second meal, whether it be more beef or beautiful salmon or cod or some sort of pork roast. It completely fills me and satiates me and completes me physically and mentally, that there is no restriction. I have a life that I never had before. And if the haters want to call it a restrictive way of eating, after I've explained myself, they can. I mean, if you want to argue about it, everybody restricts something. I mean, if you stop smoking, you've restricted your smoking. If you stop drinking, you've restricted your drinking. I mean, but you don't tell those people that they're disordered. You don't tell them that. This has given me a life that I have never ever known. This has given me a way to be a mom and a wife and a daughter that is truly complete, that is making new memories with my family, with my husband. For example, going out to eat with my husband, he stopped asking for years. We've been together for 32 years. And I wish all that time that I could give him what he wanted, what would have been a nice time out for us. But he knew how torturous it was for me, that I didn't enjoy it. I sat there with a bowl of plain lettuce, or argued with the waitress that my broccoli wasn't plain, that there had to be garlic or had to be butter on it, and it had to be plain and had to be steamed. That's not an enjoyable evening out with your husband.
You consumed some spit from a few chefs, I'm guessing. I'm sure they were not too happy with your orders.
Exactly. And I couldn't turn it off. There was nothing I could do about it. And so I began to just not go out anymore. It was just too hard. It wasn't fun. It wasn't enjoyable. It wasn't relaxing. And now for the past 5 years, it is so much fun. We'll find a steakhouse. I'll order the biggest steak, and or we'll go to where my daughter is a server, and I'll get several burger patties, big old half-pound burger patties. We'll sit there across from each other. I'm completely relaxed. I'm completely animated, happy, joyful, engaged with what we're talking about. It's a brand new life. It's like just getting married, even though we've been together, for 32 years. We're starting over, and it's just, everything is new. Everything was like in black and white, and now it's color. Everything takes on new meaning. I used to look at a sunset or a sunrise and just feel sadness, just feel darkness. There was nothing there. And now I look at those wonders of creation, or standing on the beach in Siesta Key with my mom and watching the ocean and watching the dolphins. And I can't wait to get in there and swim for 4 hours, and lay out in the sun, that I never could do before, because I not only didn't have the energy, but who wants to see what I looked like on a beach in a swimsuit? Everything is brand new.
Wow.
I have my first grandchild due. My daughter is pregnant with her first child.
Wow.
And I can't imagine, she's 7 months pregnant, and I can't imagine my former self being able to enjoy how I'm enjoying it now. I wouldn't have been able to be the mom to her and the friend to her that we are with each other now, and actually enjoy each other and be excited over what's happening in her life. It just wouldn't be there. And the other alternative is that I didn't make it.
That's right.
That I passed away. Anorexia has the highest mortality rate of all psychiatric illnesses.
Yeah.
20%, 1 in 5 die. And they die from one of 3 reasons. It's either starvation, organ failure, or suicide.
That's right.
And I'm so thankful and so grateful to not only still be here, but to be on the other side and be completely, utterly, 100% well and healed. I don't want anyone else to go through what I went through. And that's when I knew that I needed to get involved. I'd never been on social media before, but I knew that the current treatment that's out there does not help. And the only way that we can help each other is to tell our story, and to keep telling it, and to keep telling truth, and to get into heated debate with those that say that this can't happen. Because along the way, even bad press is still press.
Right.
Even when someone argues with you, it still highlights the message that I'm trying to send out. And someone else may see that exchange on Twitter or on Instagram and be curious. So even when someone comes at me and argues with me, someone else might be out there reading it. Someone else might be out there watching it. And I always say, reach out to me. I'll give you my phone number. We'll talk on the phone. I have about a dozen right now that I'm talking to through text, through phone calls, and they're all different, reasons. It could be mental health, it could be anorexia, it could be just straight carnivore, helping them on their journey to get started and help them with their macros and helping them, especially if they're women and they're under eating. So many women under eat and they're not getting enough protein. And I'm a big advocate of you need to eat all the protein that you need to in more pounds than what you weigh in order to have enough extra to build muscle and to actually repair what's going on in your body and especially your brain. There has to be extra. You can't just eat the bare minimum to just survive. This life is not about surviving. This life is about thriving and being in optimal health and being able to live a joyful life. So I don't want anybody to go through what I went through. And if I can help even one person, I'm all in, just.
That's amazing. Wow, that's amazing. Speaking of Dr. Norwitz, one of the episodes I've done with him, we did with Dr. Chris Palmer, and we also brought Brett Lloyd on the show. Again, you're
Yes.
very familiar with.
Yes, and I watched that. Yep.
Yeah, he's fantastic. And Dr. Chris Palmer, he made some fair points. He got some pushback from Nick and I, but he was saying a ketogenic diet is very, very hard. It's difficult for people to do. Some people don't have the education. Some people can't afford it. And again, Nick and I were agreeing with him, but also saying, you know what, it's really not all that hard. And they asked Brett the same thing, if it was hard for him. And he answered almost exactly the same way. It is not restrictive to not feel depression and suicidality every single day. It is worth eating burger patties and bacon, which are absolutely delicious, and experiencing joy and appreciating the time with his wife and the time on the beach, like you mentioned. It's such a game changer. It's such an important message. The story, I'm so glad, ended on a good note and a very, very, very good note. Again, to have the courage to go through some of that stuff with us today, hats off to you. What a wonderful and very nearly tragic story, and that you're out there sharing your message now is absolutely wonderful. I hope this episode gets out to tons of people. Where do you want people to go to find you and connect with you and your work? So if they need some help, they can find some answers.
Okay. I'm on Twitter and Instagram, and they're both the same handle, both Valerie Anne 1970. And Valerie Anne is spelled VALERIEANNE, the E on the end, and the year 1970, which is the year I was born. So both of those platforms, you can direct message me, you can comment. If you don't want to direct message me and you just want to comment and reach out to me, I'll direct message you. And I like to talk to people in real time. I mean, there's some basic questions that you can answer through a direct message, but if you're talking about mental health, you're talking about macros, you're talking about protein, and you want to be able to have a back and forth conversation about, okay, tell me what you're eating right now. Give me a couple of days typical of what you're eating so that I can start to gauge and start to get a picture of what we need to change in order for you to feel better. So I give out my phone number and we'll all set up a time to talk on the phone. We'll text back and forth and say, what's good for you? And I'll say what's good for me. And we'll carve out a time as quick as I can to talk for an hour or two on the phone. And let's just talk about it all. And I'll sit with a notebook and I'll write it down and I'll get back with them. And it's not a one and done. I don't talk to you for once and then you're on your own. I'm in it for the long haul. I'm not going anywhere. I have people that contacted me back in March when I first stepped out on Twitter and said this can be healed. I'm still talking to those people today. I'm still checking on them if I haven't heard from them in a couple of months, or they just randomly text me or call me or message me on Instagram and Twitter and say, I'm just checking in. This is what I'm doing and this is how I'm doing, or I'm having this problem. What do you recommend? And I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying put.